Hey y'all, it's loud little ducky here, or just ducky. I need to come up with a way to intro. Let me know if you can hear me or if my mic is giving me issues again. Hopefully, it is working. But we are going to go over Laura Owens' newest court filing in a new case, if that's what we want to call it. I don't really know what else we would call it. A filing. She filed an injunction against harassment against Hey Rob, who is a YouTuber who does live in the lives in Arizona, who is been getting filings that we are able to see from the courthouse. He has also been attending David Gingriss's hearings for his DUI that's currently going on. And he's been at Owens things during this criminal case because he is local. He can go and sit in on him, which courts are open to the public. So she has filed that. Now, what I'm going to say, because I thought about one, I didn't have the time um, to go live any sooner than now, but this was something I really thought about if I was even going to talk about until it was over with. Because I I I don't, I don't trust Laura. And the thing is that she blows things out of proportion. She takes things wrongly, and she knows she doesn't take them that way, but she's going to manipulate it and try to make it something that things are not. Like she and Gingras did with like Omar's thumbnails about the boxing, which they manipulated and twisted it into it was threatening towards them. When that's not what it is, they know that's not what it is. They know it's a reference to Conor McGregor, right? And so that to me is kind of what is happening with this. But at the same time, we need to make sure as I would say as a collective that we we don't do certain things that are alleged. And I don't know if any of this stuff actually happened or not. I was not able to go back to the timestamps and verify any of this. But something is that the content creators that report on this, usually this information comes to us kind of somewhat naturally. Um, Now, is it done with people like sleuthing and going through looking at different things and knowing people knowing about the horse stuff, and some people know about, you know, can do FOIA stuff, and everybody there's a lot of people that have their little niches and they can do in different skills, but have outright none of us ask for anything. Um, y'all send stuff to us, y'all tag things in it, which I know all of us are grateful because we can't always go and track all that down and everything else. So it does take, a group of people to do everything that this community, JFC, or whatever you want to call it, has done. So if you are somebody, make sure you are not contacting anybody directly, which I don't think is happening. I think Laura contacts herself. Um, and we're not harassing, which talking on YouTube to followers is is not us addressing Owens because Owens is not a follower. She's not subscribed to any of our channels, I'm pretty sure. She might watch them, but we're addressing the public. Nobody is sending her nobody is sending this stuff to her. She seeks it out. Nobody is harassing her. But let the information come up the way it's always come up, and then it gets brought to our attention. Um, that's the only thing that if things are happening like that, we don't do that. Um, but as for all the other shit, and I'm gonna get hate for saying those things that I just said, but here is where I call balls and strikes. And so don't be contacting anybody. Um, things will come out. We will find them out. And trust me, the Maricopa County DA's office knows everything she's doing. They see it. Plus, I'm sure people send it to the DA to make sure that they see it, which is fine. But people are allowed to attend court hearings. You're allowed to walk past people. You don't say anything. Nothing happens. You walk past them. Who gives a shit? We have all probably been 5 feet away from a horrible person in our everyday lives multiple times. So Rob being in court and Laura walked past him or whatever it is, when there is no interaction and nothing happens, there's no reason that she should be able to say anything about that. Now, let's get to this injunction. And I'm sorry if that was a little bit of rant, but I I want this suit to go away because I do not think that Laura's reason for filing it is valid. Her reason for filing this to me is that he is local. And so it therefore kicks him out of the courtroom, possibly. If any of you watched the Karen Reed trial and follow anything about the Turtle Boy stuff, Turtle Boy got kicked out of the courtroom because of restraining orders or harassment orders and all of those things for certain witnesses. Well, Laura Owens is the person there. So if this goes through, it could kick Rob out of the courtroom the entire trial. So that's what they want. Now, does that mean that there's not somebody else there or not somebody else that will go do it? What he's doing, if that happens, I'm sure there is somebody that's willing to do it. But this is not how we do things. But it gets him out of the courtroom. It doesn't keep anybody from finding out the filings because he still has the right to go up and find out about the filings. It also doesn't keep him from going to Gingris's hearings. But she thinks it's gonna silence people, or at least him. And remember, they go after the little guys. They don't go after the big people. They may say stuff about him, but they don't go after him. Only the small people. And by small, I just mean smaller channels, non-monetized, or maybe they're a little monetized. They don't have a huge following, you know? So take all of that with a grain of salt. And for those of you that have gone through and actually looked at the timestamps, great. I did not get a chance to do that. So I just have to take these affidavits at what they're saying. All right. So let's start with this. Yep, she is. She thinks she's a victim of everything, but she's a victim of her own doing. She's a victim of herself. She's the one that has done all this to herself. So, Injunction Against Harassment. And it's for Rob. And it says the location is her residence because obviously she doesn't have anywhere else that she does anything. All right. And these dates are wrong, which do I know if that matters? I don't know because let's say the approximate date is wrong, but everything else is not. And what else I wanted to do is ah, all right. Let's embiggen this. Let's see, what does that look like? Okay. Respondent is an online content creator with no personal, professional, or legal relationship to petitioner. Despite this, respondent has created, curated, and continues to maintain a publicly accessible playlist consisting of more than 1,320 videos focused exclusively on petitioner. That's disingenuous right off the bat. Because if we go to Hey Rob's channel, so her first sentence is a lie. So down here, this is a playlist on Hey Rob's channel. It has 1,445 videos. So he may have videos on his channel. He did not create all 1,400 of these videos. There's Heinz, 12 News, Snitchel Ninja, Maricopa County, Dave Neal, Court of Random Opinion, Megan Fox, All the Best, Tilted. Those are Tilted, Dave Neal, Bruce the Moose, David Michael Cantor, Reality Steve. There are some Hey Rob videos. Most of them are not his. Right? So many videos. What are his? 45 seconds. 45 seconds. So, even though he has those videos, he hasn't said most of what's on these, right? So, saying he has them on his channel, not necessarily. I guess they are on his channel technically. But he has a playlist. Who cares if he has a playlist? I have a bunch of playlists too. Y'all want access to some of my favorite music? I have a whole playlist of Christmas songs too. I don't have them public, but I have them. But I also have videos for other cases as well. It doesn't mean that he's the one who did anything. He says these videos are organized, titled, archived, and continuously updated, demonstrating intentionality, persistence, and fixation rather than incidental commentary or news reporting. Excuse me, sorry. His YouTube channel is monetized. If you want to say that super chats and stuff is monetized, I guess. But usually with smaller channels, a lot of people don't super chat because there's not enough people in the chat for you to need to super chat, basically. Because usually it's so that you can have your comment seen automatically and easier than another one because they scroll by so fast when there's tons and tons of people in a thing. But he's also not getting paid for any ads that play on his channel or anything like that. There is a lot that you cannot do until you have 4,000 watch hours and 1,000 subscribers. Respondent's fixation on petitioner began after petitioner filed a paternity case against a public figure. In response, respondent aligned himself with other online creators who organized a coordinated campaign to induce criminal prosecution against petitioner. If you want to call it a coordinated campaign, um, the judge still referred you for prosecution, whether we campaigned for it or not, but we're allowed to do that. Especially people in Arizona in the Maricopa County. Those are the letters that mattered more than anybody's because that is their people. Respondent actively amplified this effort and publicly endorsed it, including a post posing with Mitchell while holding a letter demanding petitioner's prosecution within days of a paternity ruling. Okay, so he wanted a picture with somebody and that's fighting justice. Who cares? A lot of people do that. I have a picture with my daughter and the mayor on a field trip. Who cares? This conduct establishes retaliatory motive, coordination with others. Once again, there's no coordination of things. People got drawn to this case for one reason or another because of one creator or another creator. And then they found other people to follow in this thing. There's not like coordination. We don't have like a weekly meeting or a monthly meeting to be like, "Okay, guys, what is on the schedule for this week to do to Laura?" Like, nobody's doing that. There's no president or vice president or anything like that. An early intent to subject petitioner to punitive state action. Well, the judge thought you deserved punitive state action. So, following this initial campaign, respondent conducted conduct escalated into sustained single target source of harassment. Respondent is not engaging in general commentary to a broad audience. He is repeatedly targeting the identifiable individual by name and identity. Okay, well, that's a public knowledge, and you have made yourself a public figure. So, yeah, we are allowed to refer to you by your name, and your identity is just known. Petitioner has not consented to respondent's fixation, monitoring, sexualized commentary, or repeated public degrading. Across respondent videos, he addresses petitioner by name and engages in explicitly sexualized, degrading, and violent commentary, including graphic references to ARP, S acts, S humiliation, forced pregnancy. You are the only one that does those things, and incarceration fantasies. No, that is not what Rob has done. She needs to get off the internet for sure. Um, make sure this is not anything. Um, okay. These were not fantasies, ma'am. And maybe with your criminal trial that is fixing to happen, maybe you should watch some documentaries or something, even a movie. Hell, watch Orange is the New Black. Um, I don't think Lauren's gonna kill me for not remembering this. Is it Westwood? The show that is like an Australian version, but supposedly a better version of Orange is the New Black, which I don't even know if we can watch anymore here in the US, if it's gone away forever. Wentworth, I remembered it. Um, watch something because I don't think he's talking about fantasies. I worked at a men's prison. Stuff like this shit happens. I mean, Donna Adelson was in jail, not prison yet. And she was having people twist her arm and, threaten her for commissary because they know she has money. And if they know that your parents have money or you are possibly a wealthy person, they could try to go after you. The thing with you, which Donna Adelson was fairly thin when she went into jail. She was thin. Not so much anymore, but Laura's thin too. That could really, really hurt her. Like, she could get really beat up. That's not a fantasy. That's reality. Girls who are in prison and are not getting out, they have nothing to lose. And so to pick on some girl, fresh meat that comes in, some some girls are going to do certain things. Does it make it right? No. Does it mean that we want those things to happen? No. But it is reality. There's a reason that Don't Drop the Soap is a huge stereotypical joke. Because it's not necessarily, you say it as a joke, but it's not a joke. Horrible things can happen. And in women's prison, they could use items to do things with. This is just reality and things that you need to prepare for. And if nobody's telling you the cold hard truth about things that could happen to you in jail or prison, because once you're convicted, it won't be jail, it'll be prison. They're not going to fall for your antics. You're not going to be able to use, I'm autistic. Now, if you are having an actual emergency, you will get medical care. If you try to act like you're pregnant with somebody's baby, you're going to get a sonogram for the first time in your life that has to do with you actually being pregnant. Now, you may have had a sonogram for other reasons, but they're going to find out you're lying real quick. Also, you're going to be handcuffed to a bed with guards outside your hospital room. They do not play your games. They don't fall for your people's shit because every single person in there that has come through is not to be trusted for the most part. Now, there are people that shouldn't be behind bars because they are innocent, but we're talking about majority. So these are not fantasies. These are reality checks. And I think that's all that Rob or any of his people were talking about. And yeah, could they have been said in a harsh, not great way? Could they have been said in a vulgar way? Yeah, they could have been. But it doesn't mean he's talking about you. Says these statements are not abstract or hypotheticals or commentary on public issues. Well, it is a public issue. If you're going to go to prison, which is a likelihood, it is a public issue. They're framed in acts involving petitioner's body autonomy and punishment. Nobody's saying that that is how you need to be punished. Prison will be your punishment. And bad things happen in prison. Not saying they should, but they do. Framed as imagined acts involving that. They're threatening, degrading, and intimidating and exceeds constitutional protected expression. You're gonna you're gonna be threatened in prison, you're gonna be degraded, and you're going to be intimidated because you have no idea what you're in for, baby girl. Respondent instructed viewers to impersonate petitioner when contacting third parties in order to obtain her real-time whereabouts and attendance at events, and encouraged others to physically attend petitioner's location and document her without consent and report back to him. Now, this is what I'm if this is happening, this does not need to be happening. Don't pretend or like pretend to be somebody that you're not. Don't do that. I don't know that anybody did. I'm saying don't. You don't have to listen to me, but I am telling y'all don't do it. This constitute proxy harassment, attempted impersonation, coordinated surveillance, and stalking behavior because respondent directs unknown third parties to locate and report petitioner's whereabouts. The risk to her safety is real and foreseeable. This section here about asking about whereabouts is the only thing in this thing that I am actually partially worried about. But I think it can be explained away because she is known for lying about her whereabouts. And so, in covering a case, do we want to know where, if somebody's where they say they are? Yeah. I mean, was the news stalking? If you look at the Daybell case, right? Yeah, she twists things. But if you remember the Daybell case, right? They Nate Eaton, East Idaho News. They get a tip that Lori Daybell, Lori Vallow Daybell, whatever, and Chad Daybell are in Hawaii. And this is a story they are following. It is in the public eye, right? They get a tip that somebody has seen them there. So East Idaho News and some other people, Nate Eaton, they all go to Hawaii and find Lori and Chad, right? Ask them questions. Could Lori have filed an injunction against harassment on that? Was Nate Eaton stalking Lori? No, he's doing his job as a reporter. So is Rob doing his job as a reporter? It's hard, and people and the courts don't necessarily yet take people on YouTube that are independent and reporting things and reporting on cases as seriously as mainstream media because they have like a whole company backing them and stuff like that. But independent journalism, regular people asking the hard questions and being in town square and telling people things and reporting on things is how journalism kind of was. It was just regular folks. It wasn't till way later that this mainstream, you know, ethical bound by ethics journalists and who they're real journalists because they're employed by certain people. You don't have to be employed by anybody to be a journalist. You don't have to have a degree to report on things or be a journalist. So could it fall in line with that? You know? Because I'm trying to look at it from both ways where I don't like asking about whereabouts, but is it doing the job as a reporter, staying on top of this case? And trying to verify if she's telling the truth or not. Was she just going to get her horses in California or something? Or is she actually visiting whoever's having their problem in California that she keeps having to go back and forth with? So, I don't know. Respondent has also publicly acknowledged attending all of petitioner's court hearings and monitoring her in the courtroom behavior and movements. Yeah, that happens with every court case. Okay, not every, but every case that is in the media. Um, People got in trouble today in the Edric Faust case, which if y'all are not watching that case, the state rested today in the Edric Faust case, but I don't think I've been more infuriated by a judge in my life. It it is that case is insanely crazy. So, people reporting on courtroom behavior and movements, not a big deal. Yeah, and as she admits it may be lawful. Respondent uses that access as an extension of harassment. No, he doesn't. Um, he's not in there like, "Oh my god, I smelled her shampoo. I was able to put lotion on her skin." Like, I none of no weird stuff is happening. He's just in the courtroom as an Arizona resident, lo finding out about a crazy woman in Arizona. There's nothing wrong with that. And then, yeah, he goes and tells people about it. You're allowed to do that. There's a case local to me that I would love to report on. My daughter told me, if I did it, she would kill me. So out of respect for her, I'm not gonna cover it. But, I wanted to because it was local to me, and it's crazy. Um Contributes to the reasonable fear for petitioner safety. Respondent has additionally devoted extensive broadcasts to dispute and undermine petitioner's documented medical conditions. Where is your documentation on your medical conditions? Because you writing that you have a medical condition is not documentation of a medical condition. We have seen nothing. We have seen forged doctor's notes. We have seen something about neurology, but not anything for sure. Um, a lot of things that we've seen are patient reports that she was pregnant, patient reports that she thinks she miscarried. Um, Patient reports is not documented medical conditions either. So when you say you have documented medical conditions, including anorexia and autism, you don't. To the public. Now, you may have documentation on those, but we as the public do not have documentation because you have not shared that with the public. Would we like to see this documentation? Yeah. Are we going to question it? Yeah, because you're known to do arts and crafts to your medical documentation. You're self-reporting your anorexia and autism. You're the one writing blog posts about it to a public forum. We're allowed to comment on things in public forums. It's like anybody that writes on Reddit. We're allowed to comment on a Reddit story because it is a public forum that anybody can go read and comment on. But we have seen no medical documentation on these conditions. And you're the one who brought those to the public's attention. The only reason we find out about these supposed medical conditions that you have is because you told us. We didn't go search and find that. We didn't call up a bunch of doctors' offices and find out because one, nobody would release that to us because that would be a HIPAA violation. So get the fuck out of here with that. He has accused petitioner of fabricating or weaponizing these conditions. Well, the state has too. The state has accused you of fabricating things and using medical documentation or supposed medical documentation to weaponize things against these men. Her body, her weight, and her appearance. I don't know what he said. I don't know what Rob has said about her body, her weight, and her appearance. The only thing I've ever said is she needs to eat and she needs help. I want her to get help for everything because I think if she gets help for the stuff that is going on in her head that goes back to maybe something in her childhood, whether it's abandonment issues with her father or whatever it is, that once she starts to heal mentally, that will heal her physically as well. I think the two go hand in hand with her. I also think that the HCG was a start to her weight loss journey. And I say that based on knowing that she ordered it, based on knowing that there was a scale from a weight loss injunction company that she has stood on and showed pictures of to the public, and her losing weight really quickly, which those type of things can make you lose weight really fast. Um, Most people don't lose baby weight, as you call it, that quick. So, you're the one who brought all that to everybody's attention for us to talk about. And we're allowed to talk about it because you talked about it publicly. These statements are false. Well, you're going to need to prove that they're false. They're misleading and a part of a broader pattern of misinformation intended to discredit petitioner. Honey, nobody needs to discredit you out here on these YouTubes. You discredit yourself every time you open your mouth. Case in point, meeting of the creditors this week that happened. Petitioner has been diagnosed by licensed medical professionals and has offered HIPAA releases to opposing counsel. That's great. Just because opposing counsel has them doesn't mean the public has them. So we are not knowingly making false statements or recklessly making false statements because we have reason to think that way. And a reasonable person with the information that the public has would think the way. that we have talked about and is willing to execute releases for this court. Respondent may assert the petitioner is a public figure. Even if petitioner were, the status does not eliminate her right to protection from harassment, threats, stalking, impersonation, or violence. Nobody's done that. First Amendment does not protect sustained target course of conduct that intimidates, degrades, or places an individual in reasonable fear for her safety. Um First Amendment does protect degrading somebody. You can rip a person up and down, degrade them, call them vile scum of the earth, that you would wipe their ass with them, that you would shit on them, literally, figuratively, whatever. You are allowed to degrade somebody, call them every name in the book. There's nothing wrong with that. We're allowed to do that. And the thing with the First Amendment, it is not, it is there not to just, it's not to protect great speech, because nobody has a problem with great speech and speaking properly and everything like that. It's horrible speech, speech that people don't want to hear. And for you, horrible speech is calling it like they see it, calling you names that we think you are. I'm a bitch. That's that's not a nice thing for somebody to say, but people have the right to call me a bitch if they want to. They're allowed to say all that stuff. It's not nice speech, but the First Amendment protects them for saying that. I don't think Rob has ever said, "I hope this happens to her. I am going to do this to her." I don't think that has ever come out of Rob's mouth. So I don't think any of this has happened. She seeks court's intervention only because respondent's conduct escalated from commentary to impersonation, directive surveillance, and violence and coordinated harassment. Respondent's conduct is repeated, unwanted, and served no legitimate purpose and would cause a reasonable person substantial emotional distress. If the DoorDash or Domino's delivery guy was to hand you a pizza wrong, it would cause you emotional distress. Your Google causes you emotional distress. It you not your emotional distress cannot even be taken seriously at this point for all the things that you say cause you emotional distress, because you are in control of those things. You didn't have to look up any of this stuff. But you know what this shows me? Is that, to me, and sadly, when I saw it, I wondered if a comment asking about people, if they see Owens at a horse show, report back. Let me know. I'm making mouth noises. I'm so sorry. But I think somebody, whether it's Gingras, whether it's Jan, whether it's Laura, whether it's all three, saw that comment or heard that comment. And that's how they even found out who Hey Rob was. I don't know if they even knew who Hey Rob was before that. And then they went and looked at a bunch of stuff. And that's how everything got this, and they were like, "Oh, he lives in Arizona," because a Wisconsin moose and a guy in Tennessee and people in New York and a girl in Florida and a girl in Texas and where everybody else is. Not a locational problem. Because if we were local to her, she would have filed this stuff on all of us. She went after Rob because he was local. Due to the volume of respondents' content, petitioner has been unable to review every video and therefore provides examples from episodes she has viewed the transcripts of. The thing is why haven't I don't believe that you haven't seen these videos. Because I believe most of them you have watched over a period of time as those videos came out, especially Lauren's versions, and I think Schnitzel's. You have watched all of every time they come out. But why did you pick these specific videos? Why did you pick this first one on January 14th, um, episode 309? Rob has these lives numbered as that is it. I think that's the first or 309th live he's done, maybe? I could be wrong in how he numbers them. Why did you pick that one? Again, when was this filed? I don't know what date this was filed. 120. So maybe that was just a recent one. Also, everything that we read before we get to this January 14th video did not happen on June 10th, 2024. Respondent escalated his conduct from commentary into direct actionable harassment by directing third parties to impersonate petitioner, to locate her in real time, physical whereabouts. Respondent centered the broadcast on a court filing submitted. Okay, yeah, we sent her our lives based on a filing that we're going over. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, and you requested to file out of state. We think you've lied about it before. She says petitioner's first and only criminal matter, which stems directly from a paternity case described in Incident 1, the case that initially drew respondents' attention to the petitioner. Petitioner has never been arrested. Technically, she has not. She has just turned herself in. No prior criminal history. And has remained on her own recognizance at all times in this nonviolent matter. It's not a victimless matter, though. As a procedural condition of that status, petitioner was required to seek court approval to travel for out of state. Petitioner's motion stated verbatim, she needed to go to California for family members who are enduring difficult times. Respondent had no personal knowledge contradicting the statement. Nevertheless, respondent affirmatively rejected petitioner's stated purpose and asserted to his audience as fact that petitioner was lying and was instead traveling to attend a horse show. I don't know that he said it as a matter of fact. He says, "Do we know?" He probably says, "Do we know if there are horse shows going on that she might be attending?" But she's saying that she's doing things because people are enduring some difficult times with medical issues. You were supposedly dealing with medical issues, but you were also in a horse show. So Is it really, and that's why you couldn't go to court. Your own medical issues that put you in a horse show in Arizona when you were supposed to be in California in court. So excuse us for asking those questions based on your past. She says petitioner, he said that, oh, petitioner is lying about it and no, I don't think he said it that way. I think she's twisting it. But as factual narrative used to discredit petitioner and frame subsequent conduct as justified, using this false narrative as pretext, respondent escalated beyond commentary into directing others to locate petitioner in real time. During the live stream, a viewer proposed in a live chat that others contact the horse show organizers while falsely representing themselves as petitioner. That's the part don't do. Respondent did not discourage this suggestion. It is not Rob's job to tell people how to live their life. It's not his job. And a lot of people, this goes for like famous people, YouTube creators, they're like, oh, you need to tell your followers to knock this shit off. You need to tell your followers not to do this. We are not in charge of our followers, our subscribers. Do a lot of people nowadays say, hey, I don't advise anybody do this? This is not legal advice. You know, people doing things, they're like, don't try this at home. He doesn't have to tell people not to do things that people should know are not okay. And I don't know if the person that said this paid a super chat and so he brought it up, or if it was just a comment and he wanted to think about it and state his opinions or thoughts on it, which he's allowed to do. Respondent read the comment aloud. He's allowed to read his comments aloud, affirmatively agreed with it, and adopted it as a course of action. Respondent then endorsed and repeated the directive to his audience. Reading a comment does not mean you endorse it. Some people write things just so that they know that people will place it up on the screen. This is like with super chats. That everybody, like some creators read every single super chat. And so people will write things just to get them to say it. One with like lawyer, would be if somebody paid Peter Tragos on the lawyer, a thing to say FSU sucks. Back in the day, Peter probably would have said, he would have pulled up the comment and maybe would have read it. I don't know if he actually would have read it, but let's say he read it because he's going to read all his super chats on screen. Now he's like, no, I'm not even putting that up, and I'm most certainly not saying it. But people do that sort of thing because he's not going to say FSU sucks. But just because somebody writes it and we bring it up doesn't mean that we're endorsing anything. Respondent did not frame this as a hypothetical or cautionary. He presented it as a practical method to locate petitioner and encourage viewers to act on it. I don't know if he did or not. Respondent further reassured his audience that impersonation and information gathering were lawful, stating that's a fair way to do it, right? You're not causing trouble. You're not influencing anything. You're just using your First Amendment rights to find some information. Pretending to be somebody to get information is not okay. You're not allowed to do that. And that could get a lot of people in trouble. Also, Rob is not a lawyer. So he is not the person to take legal advice from. Neither am I. Most of the people that are commenting on this case are not lawyers. Omar was a lawyer that comments on it. Patrick sometimes comments on this case. Legal Vices commented on this case. Sometimes Ian Runkle does. But Rob is not a person that knows the law. And you shouldn't be taking legal advice from any of us. And people on the live streams, even if they are lawyers, are not allowed to give you legal advice. Anybody in the area who feels compelled to go, which you can go. You can go, you can take pictures. If you happen to be there and she is there and somebody reports back, then so be it. Maybe they were going to the horse show. Maybe they're in the horse show and they also follow this story. Even if certain competition schedules or entry are publicly accessible, respondent did not limit himself to passive review of public information. Instead, he encouraged deception, impersonation, real-time locating, tracking, physical attendance, and documentation of petitioners' whereabouts, all directed at a single identifiable individual. Petitioner's fear arises from not from hypothetical strangers, but from respondent himself. Respondent was the central organizer who solicited the information and instructed others on how to obtain it and required that it report back. Because respondent controlled and aggregated real-time location information about petitioner, she could not know who might act on his directives and how that information would be used, creating a reasonable and ongoing fear for her safety. To me, you shouldn't, if you're not going to be at this horse show, then where is your fear for safety? If you are not going to a horse show, how is your safety in danger because of a place that you're not going to be? Or is your fear and safety at risk? I don't think your safety is at risk, but is your fear that you could possibly be seen at a horse show that you aren't supposed to be at? Is that where your fear is? That you're gonna be somewhere that you're not supposed to be? Because otherwise, if you're really doing this family stuff, him saying, "Hey, guys, go to a horse show and see if Laura's there." If she's not there and she's not doing that, it doesn't put her in any type of danger. I get not wanting somebody to do that. I wouldn't want somebody, telling people my whereabouts. Um, but I don't I don't think she's in danger for somebody telling people to go to see if she's there and if she's not going to be there. Because I would think you have to be present to have danger. Then she moves to November 11th, 2025, episode 276, The Book of Elo, chapter 2, which I think he says that he calls her by her initials. Um, Oh, well, he didn't there in that one, but I know I've heard him say that he calls her by her initials because she's not worth her full name or whatever. It may not be that exact quote, but she just needs to be referred to as that. Yeah. She says the stream was sustained, targeted monologue centered on petitioner's person, body, family health, and alleged future harm. Um, you are the person that went on a monologue about your health, your family, you, and your body. Respondent repeatedly described, predicted, and normalized horrible things against the petitioner, framing such acts as inevitable. They might be inevitable in prison. Deserved? No. And entertaining? No. Some guards will do things to her, and then she'll be pregnant if there's more than one and watch her end up with twins or more. That's a joke. It's satire because there are people that have gotten pregnant in prison. Some of it has been because somebody graped. But there are some that are consensual. I think Orange is the New Black has a consensual one where a guard is the father of one of the inmates' babies. So Laura, known to lie about pregnancies, could lie about a guard doing that to try to get a guard in trouble because she didn't like him for some reason or another. Or maybe she wanted to date this guy when she gets out and he turns her down. Is she going to lie on a guard? Who knows? It's not far-fetched from thinking that she could do that. She's going to be found out real quick if that happens. And I think I don't know that she would do it. Would I put anything past her at this point? No. But because she should know, unless she's just really that dumb, that they're going to make her have an ultrasound. They're going to do more than an HCG test. She's not going to get a chance to doctor the results. They're not coming to her first before they go to somebody else. They're going to go to the jail and they'll report them. So, do I think she would try that? No. But those things could happen. I don't think he's, oh, she's going to be knocked up. Who knows, right? Yeah, she could get that. That doesn't mean he wants that to happen. Then it could happen. Discussion of prison conditions. Yeah. Prison conditions are not great. He did not condemn those things or express concern. He treated it just because he didn't condemn it or express concern does not mean that he rubber stamped it or gave it a thumbs up. You thinking that he treated it some way as foreseeable or fitting, that's you interpreting things. If he didn't say things like that he wants this to happen to her, that he hopes it happens to her, or that she would deserve anything that comes to her at this point, if he didn't say those things, he he didn't he didn't put a rubber stamp of approval on it. He's just talking about things that could happen in a general way. Um, s States, I see her cowering in the corner and possibly even forced into solitary or the hospital because what people might potentially do to her in the shower. Um, she didn't do things to kids, so she's not that type of inmate. People that do things to kids aren't treated really well in prisons. Um, Now people that have suffered miscarriages and what she's done with some fake babies, maybe she does fall into that category, and somebody's not gonna like that when they find out. Um, but could I see her over exaggerating how much fear she's in or how scared she is of everybody that's in the prison? Yeah. And so they take her out of Gen Pop and put her somewhere else to keep her safe, which would be more solitary. I mean, they could. If she's so concerned about everybody doing it, I mean, she might have to prove that, but, this is not a hotel. They're not there to serve you. But I could see her making a big deal out of things and falsely accusing other inmates of doing things that they didn't do because she interpreted something that way. Or she wants to try to be a brown noser and suck up, which is not gonna go well either. So, I could see her trying to fake things. Like, I can see her faking an anxiety attack. I think she could have real ones, but I could see her exaggerating things to get attention. Respondent escalated his narrative by framing the violence as a spectacle, inevitably stating, "Man, that would be a showstopper. This story does not end with jail." Sorry. Where did it say? This the show this story does not end with jail. In context, this communicates that the harm respondent described and all the things would continue beyond incarceration. How does that that's somebody saying that your shenanigans, some people have said that they don't think that jail is gonna end your shenanigans, basically. That that does not mean that it's gonna go and it could go beyond incarceration because you could get out and still do the same stuff. Because you would think a normal person would not be sitting here under these indictments, knowing good and well of what you have done, pushing this narrative of all I did was get fucking pregnant by the bachelor, when you know that's not true, that you're not using your right to remain silent. You are continually making things worse for yourself. You show no remorse. You apologize for none of it. And so People think that jail is not gonna stop you, that you'll try new shenanigans in jail. I'm hoping you don't. I'm hoping I was hoping that just being indicted would wake you up, and apparently it's not. That having a lawyer other than Gingras, although you still have Gingras in your ear, who's probably like, "Well, that lawyer doesn't know what they're talking about," or, "The public defender this," and he is probably giving his Gingrasy opinion, but it it hasn't stopped you. You still have not learned your lesson just by this, letting you know this is serious. You filed for bankruptcy and are in a bigger mess now with that. You're gonna be lucky if you don't come out of your bankruptcy with charges related to that case that has nothing to do with us JFC people at all, other than we've reported on some of it, but most of us, we don't understand that stuff because it's not just everyday stuff. It's very, you know, exclusive stuff. You have to research and be good at the math and know all that stuff. This is just everyday common sense stuff. So I'm hoping that since the indictments aren't changing your behavior, that prison will. And maybe you never come out and apologize or admit to your wrongdoings, but that after prison and after this case, that we don't ever have to hear about you pulling shit and shenanigans ever again. That's what I would like, because that would show that you've learned, you've grown, and you've changed, because you can still do all those things. You just haven't yet. So somebody thinking that it's going to go beyond incarceration or you're still going to do this shit while you're in jail is a valid opinion. And it's also an opinion and it's protected by the First Amendment. People mocked her. Oh my gosh. Respondent compounded these things with slurs and dehumanization, saying, "Thank you very much, you cunt whore." I believe the women in prison will say, "Hey, horsehead, get over here." And later, yeah, she'll be a bitch they toss around. That could happen. They're gonna call you a bitch in jail. I guarantee it. Respondents also mocked and reenacted petitioner's documented medical disabilities, including anxiety and epilepsy, while discussing incarceration and punishment. While mimicking petitioner, stated, "No, no, don't put me in solitary because I can't. I've got anxiety, high anxiety." Respondent repeatedly referenced jazz hands. That comes from a body footage thing. I don't think that has anything to do with your epilepsy. Um, I think you had high anxiety. You were literally like shaking in your boots. But yeah, could if they try to punish you and send you to solitary because you screw up in jail, or when they try to cuff you or search you every day for rec play when you come back inside, do we think that you're gonna have a full meltdown and cause a scene? Yeah. And sadly, you will get used to it, which is something that you shouldn't get used to. You're gonna get used to showering in front of everybody, peeing in front of everybody. You're going to get used to being strip searched. when coming back in from the rec yard. It's your it's not gonna be a big deal at the end of it. But do I think that you're gonna cause a big deal about it in the beginning? Yeah, I think many people do. But you're extra, and you will feel so degraded, and you will be so vulnerable. And while that is just what happens in prison, and you had every out possible to stop you from getting to this place. I'm sorry that you don't like the reality check. And maybe it wasn't said in a great way. Maybe Rob's delivery wasn't great. I don't know. But it doesn't mean that he's not saying things that aren't true or that could happen. Um, Something about petitioner, who hits who. Let me just leave with that thought. The statement was made in direct reference to petitioner and her mother. Yeah, we're wondering if y'all had bitch slapped each other. Um, Talking about, and then she goes on to talking about mother and anticipating or facilitating petitioner's father's death for financial gain, stating that it was all about the women in the family who can't wait for Ron to pass. Petitioner and her mother are caregivers. Petitioner, I don't think you're a caregiver at all. You don't even know what chair he sits in, ma'am. You don't even know it's the black one. Respondent statements falsely imply elder abuse, homicidal intent, or neglect towards a vulnerable adult. People are allowed to think that you could possibly be neglecting your father. I think you keep him out of the loop. I think y'all are in y'all's own little world and y'all are gonna do whatever you wanna do, and nobody's gonna stop you. Yeah, how can you care for your dad when you don't even care for yourself? Just like, how the hell are you gonna love somebody else if you can't love yourself? Huh. What are places that are not FDIC insured, Teresa? Like, I know I've worked at some FDIC insured organizations. I don't know that she would ever, but that's interesting. She she just does not and I don't know if she's trying to just block it out, what her future could be. I haven't even had this thing on screen share, y'all, I don't think. Y'all have just had to look at me. I'm sorry. But I don't know if she's not thinking about prison because she she doesn't wanna think about it, and she's trying to protect herself from that, but I hope she is preparing for it. And if Gingras is not telling her that there is a possibility she could she could lose this because nothing is a guarantee. Even when framed as speculation, may constitute intimidation. No, it doesn't. Nobody's predicting something. We're just saying it could. And your father has nothing to do with this stuff. I don't like, why are you bringing him into it? You just need to make sure that they know you have an 80-year-old daddy with Parkinson's for a long time. Woe is me. And okay, he devotes a broadcast about you. Apparently 278 was Spotlight versus Cell Block. And there was she says that he described certain things. She says that there are foreseeable, expected, and deserved consequences awaiting for her. Deserved consequence could just be the fact that you going to prison is a deserved consequence because you've had every out possible. Respondent didn't express concern for petitioner's safety. It's not our job to be concerned about you. But you know what's crazy? It seems like people in JFC are the only ones concerned for you. We're the only ones who are willing to tell you like it is. We're the only ones not gaslighting you. We're the only ones that think that you need to seek help. That people need to check on you to make sure that you are still alive and that you are not a danger to yourself. And if you are, you need to go get help. And if nobody inside your house or is around you is going to do it, then somebody looking in from the outside is doing it. And we're allowed to mock you and make fun of you. We are. Let's see. Just more of the same stuff. Um, she mentions the cowering thing again. Something in the shower, which people can do things in the shower because sometimes there are blind spots in the prison. Um, and trust me, the inmates know where the blind spots are. Let's see. Now she could probably work her magic through there with a couple of blowies. That was a joke about you doing blowjobs. Um, Statement invokes a reference to what people might potentially do to her and is widely recognized as euphemism for custodial essay. No, it's not. Respondent did not condemn. Instead, he presented it implicit foreseeable. Respondent then continued by describing petitioner's confinement in dehumanizing terms, stating that would probably be the safest place for her to be. Solitary might be the safest place for you. And they can do is slide food through a little rectangle door in some of the solitaries, depending on what type of solitary confinement you're in. Because we had an F block, um, which some of F block had just the little doors with the slots, and then some of them didn't have just that. They had more openings than that. Um, but it was in a different section and it had like a different thing where I was at. Weaponized, reinforce the message rather than dismissing or de-escalating her fear. We're not here to do that. You have a mommy for that. And then she goes into his being at the court appearance. Oh, let me see here. What did Teresa say? Okay, getting a deep-seated. What is Jan gonna do without her little sidekick too when Laura goes to prison? Like, and she's just stuck with Ron. Yeah. I see her trying to sneak stuff too. But yeah, this right here. Guards and prisoners have relationships in various ways. They bring in drugs and phones, all kinds of things for money. She's going to get in trouble for all that stuff. And hopefully she doesn't get in trouble for it. Hopefully she doesn't do that stuff. Is she going to be naive and gullible and listen to maybe the wrong people in there? Yeah. Because she shouldn't trust anybody in there. But as I said, also, a lot of prisons don't allow touching. So even if her mom comes and visits her every weekend, she's not gonna get to hug her mother, possibly, depending on where she's at. Some people do allow it. Some jails and prisons allow it, a hug, like, when they leave or something. Some don't. She'll get a tablet that she'll be able to contact, and talk to people. Um, that she can kinda, like, text to people, that's monitored, and then she'll get her phone calls. But people do bring things in. And, when I say that inmates know the blind spots, they know the blind spots where they can start a fight. Now, it might get broken up later after word gets out, but they're gonna be able to start it in that blind spot and get some licks in before anybody comes and does anything. There are blind spots where inmates will give tattoos, and they do it in the blind spot place so that it's not picked up on the cameras that are in Central. So there are going to be places that there's not necessarily cameras or places that are right off the bat. Just like you can't watch anyone or anything 24 hours a day, every single minute and second. You know, even kids, like, you can watch them as much as possible, but you cannot prevent and make sure nothing ever, ever, ever happens to them. Like, today, my grandson snuck a muffin because it was where he could reach it and couldn't get to him before he had the muffin. Um, Sometimes if we forget to bring the dog water up, he'll go and play in the dog water. even though we try to get to him, or he grabs something and then he runs around and we have to chase him. Kids will put things in your basket at a store. You can turn around and get something off the shelf and then turn back around and stuff is gone. Um, but there are places that people that have been in there know about, and they could do things. Or they can make something look natural. Like it's just an everyday event and nothing is wrong here. But really, they're doing stuff to you. They're not there to just have a nice little chat with you. And I think that's all Rob was trying to say, is that there are bad things that could happen to her there. She then talks about, the public live stream that's dedicated to petitioner. Rachel Mitchell moment, describing his physical proximity to petitioner in a manner that would cause a reasonable person. No, it's not. No, it's not. You can say, "Oh, I was this close to the jurors in the case that like the jurors all walked right past me." The attorneys and the person had to walk right past me, or they did in the hall, or I was in the elevator with this person. I would say if you're a part of this, don't go on an elevator with her if there is even an elevator. Um, I would just stay far away from her. Um, because we don't want even the look of something, even if nobody does anything, we don't even want the look that can be construed as somebody doing something when they're not. One second, I have to plug in my laptop. Pull this down real quick. Okay. So I don't think she's scared. Do I think she likes any of this? No. Do I think she's trying to get him out? Yes. But somebody else will go and be there. It's not going to get anybody away from reporting and knowing about this case. It's just not. And so I don't think the fact that he has been in the proceedings is anything. And then he's reported saying that, yeah, she had to walk right past me. And okay, Rob here, she says respondent then expressed anger the petitioner was exercising her legal rights, stating she has the audacity to be standing in this courtroom and not yell, "I'm guilty, I'm guilty. Take me away in chains." That's Rob's opinion. Rob is allowed to be pissed off that you are wasting taxpayer dollars to fund a defense for something that you know you are guilty of. And that people are going to have to take this to trial and spend a shit ton of money. They're going to have to spend money. They've had to spend money on this investigation. You talk about, "Oh, I don't want to waste police resources." You're wasting resources. They're going to have to pay jurors to come sit for this trial. Jurors are going to miss days of work and possibly way better pay to come sit in this trial for you. They had to pay for experts to come in on your behalf. So, yeah, Rob, as an Arizona person, is allowed to be pissed off that you're wasting taxpayer money when you know you were guilty. A judge isn't gonna look at this any better if she tries to go a bench trial over a jury. It's her right, but I don't think it's gonna go well for her, and the fact that she seems to think she's going to, I mean, if she thinks, "Oh, we're gonna fight this all the way," great. But the thing is why you and your family may think, "Oh, she's so brave for fighting this all the way to the end of a corrupt system and the public, being the ones who actually did this because they intervened into her trial." Nobody's intervening into your trial. Nobody's gonna be contacting any jurors or anything like that because nobody wants to mess up the justice that is coming for Clayton and Greg, because we do not want you to be able to appeal this verdict that happens in this criminal case. We want you to have the best representation possible, but you're wasting taxpayer dollars. So is Gingras. He knows he was drunk. Rob says the same thing about Gingras's DUIs. So, yeah, excuse him for not liking people that are guilty coming and acting like they're innocent. What is it, the Waukesha Parade? Daryl Brooks, if any of y'all watched that. That man is on camera running those people over. And this man is up in here saying, "Well, that is a capitalized version of my name, and I don't use all capital letters as my name. And my head is shaved now, and that person in that video has dreads. So how do you know that's me?" That's infuriating. And he wasted so much taxpayer dollars because of what? He wanted to be the star of the show? Because he surely did not think he could win this. He's bored. He has nothing better to do. In his case, he's going away for life, multiple lives. But he had nothing better to do. And those are the type of people you go to prison with. It's people that have nothing but time on their hands. They have nothing better to do. Maybe you find people that want to act right and behave. And I'm sure you're going to find God and become really close to him in prison too. And I hope you do. And I hope it's not just you saying it and then you try to just speak all Christian like and all that and just be like, Lord has shown me my ways and all that. But yeah, it's infuriating when people that are clearly guilty are wasting everybody's time and money. He has a right to be enraged about that. He's not saying you do have legal rights, but he has the right to be offended. And then she talks about him saying something about ooh baby." I don't know. Rob has said that if there are things that he did that were out of line and he takes ownership for some of the things, that maybe he didn't word properly, or maybe he should have told people not to do things that people brought up, or did a PSA about, "This is a joke. I don't clearly mean this." Like, he is he did not he does not mean any harm by anything he's done. And people can make mistakes. But I think that even if he did mess up somewhere in this stuff, or his jokes went over the line or something, or people thought that they did, I think a lot of it is taken out of context. Now, I'm not saying that he didn't say some of the stuff, but we need the context in which they were set in. Because just like she tries to say that Greg said this about me, Greg said that, Clayton said this, Clayton said that, Mike said this, Mike said that. While out of context, they seem horrible for somebody to say. Like, if Laura was like, "Oh, Lauren called me a cunt, and I," and then she was like, "And I didn't do anything to her. All I did was get pregnant by the bachelor, and she called me a cunt." That doesn't sound great. But then when you go look at the context around why Lauren might have called her a cunt, you're like, "Well, that checks out." Or, "Oh, that's not how that was meant." So she said, "He may argue that it is protected, um, because, things are, First Amendment, or that it's not harassment." Um, she's just twisting a lot of shit, right? Let's see. Commentary about her physical, like, people say, "Oh, she's a effing twat. She's an a-hole." Well, you are. Um, you're the one who brings up your medical stuff and all of that crap. A lot of us wouldn't even have anything to comment on if you wouldn't sit here and put out articles. And she brings up her 84 pounds and her GI bleeding and accused her of intentionally causing it. I don't Saying that you intentionally caused a GI bleeding doesn't necessarily mean you did something crazy to yourself, right? He is saying that maybe your stress, you're not taking care of yourself, did intentionally cause these problems that you're having, and you brought them on yourself. You could also be lying about this stuff. We don't know. Let's see. He invalidated her medical illnesses. Who gives a shit? Welcome to people with autoimmune disorders every day. Please give me the HIPAA records. You're the one that said you would give the HIPAA records. So he's made language is demeaning and dismissive and strips petitioner's parents of dignity and identity. Okay. Because he degraded them and dehumanized them. Well, you've brought them into this, and they've brought themselves into it as well. My mother is 69 and my father is an elderly man in his 80s. With this, we're allowed to have opinions about them. No, oh, a reckoning, that just means your day is coming in court and that hopefully justice is done in this case. She talks more about her medical opinion. So much of this is repeating, which I don't know why. You don't have a work, business, place, or go to school. I don't know why he needs his firearms taken away because he hasn't threatened your life or anything like that. And then Rob's response basically stated that um that she has taken all of this stuff out of context and there are things that she alleges that are not even in certain things, or maybe they were said in a different video and she didn't quote that video, but they're trying to quash it because his videos are not directed at Laura herself. He's not creating them, calling her out, or anything like that. Um, Public interest because this is a public person. Um, we're allowed to insult and have outrageous speech. She is creating um, things for dramatics. There are 437 pages of exhibit that accompany this file, apparently, that went with it. He says that it is vague. Let's see. He talks about, the things that she's done, um, and things like that. But Lauren said that, and they were asking for a hearing, and I think Lauren reported that his hearing on this is going to be next week. So we'll see what happens of it. Do I hope that nothing comes of this. But is there a possibility that if just one of those things is true, that she could get this on him? Yeah. Let's hope she doesn't renew it. Um, it also doesn't mean that he's not allowed to speak about her. He could still speak about her case. It would just mean that, like, he can't he can't go near her. He can't contact her, which he's not contacting her anyways. She even states that. Like, they've never had any interactions. So, I don't really know what I mean, it also would say, you can't have people try to communicate or contact her by a third party. So, yeah, they're crazy, Teresa. And even working in a men's prison, I was told by so many that the women's prison is so much worse to work at. And they much rather work at a men's prison than the women's prison because it is crazy over there, which I can understand because there's men, a lot of times they're just like, okay, you want to step to it, bro. And they might get into like a physical altercation or have words or whatever, or play it out in a game or something like that, or take bets and things like that. Women are calculated and vindictive and manipulative. Most guys are not that way because okay, they can manipulate, but most men think that is just too exhausting to put that much effort and all this stuff. And so, while I think this could go either way for Rob, um, I don't think this is the actual reason. But they that's why you have to kind of be careful on certain things because people can use it against you in a different way. Like me using Gingris's photo that he posted publicly on Twitter. He was not upset that I used that picture, but because it was something that he could attach to as something that I screwed up on, that's what he went after. His problem was with the reporting and me talking about it and voicing it and people saying Omar's filing that he doesn't like. That's what he was mad about. But he got to go after me based on that picture. And had I never used that picture, he wouldn't have been able to do anything to me. So that could be something that happens here is while that's not the true motive and Laura is not actually worried about this stuff, or she makes up all this stuff in her head and she makes things what they're not because she doesn't live in a reality that she's going to be able to get him on a technicality thing, that there is a mistake that was made. That doesn't mean that Rob deserves anything like this, So, people can make mistakes. We've all made mistakes in doing certain things. And it's how we learn and grow and go from here. And sometimes when people get really passionate about things, things can go awry. Um, you don't when you get really upset about certain things, or you like online, you try to talk like you're talking to, like, people you hang out with and stuff, but you can't because the internet is forever type thing. So, we will see what happens with this. I'm hoping to be able to get some more videos out. I don't know when the next free time that I will have is. I know that I do not have free time on Friday and Saturday, but I might have some tomorrow. So we shall see. Is this going to be a win for Laura? Um, Jingris has his thoughts, which he's allowed to have those thoughts as well. Doesn't mean I agree with them, and I don't understand why he put all his eggs in Laura's basket and decided to go down in flames with everything. Because I don't know what kind of career he had before, but he would still have one had he not thrown all his eggs in one basket. If he would have just fought this out in a court of law the way he should have, he would still be able to do things, but he didn't. And I don't know why. That's the crazy thing. And so, like I said, we'll just wait and see what happens. If you haven't watched Big Tiff, I'm gonna go watch her right now because I didn't haven't got to see um her film. I haven't got to watch her live stream. I was watching the Edric Faust trial all day, and then I was listening to the Supreme Court arguments for Alec Murdaugh to get a new trial. And so that has been going on. And then, there's new things that seem to come out every day in Massachusetts. The MSP finally going after people on Enrique's behalf for the police academy training. So if there's a major true crime story out there, I am probably watching it and following it. I know Corey Richins' jury was sat today. Um, I don't know if I don't know if that one's even gonna be live streamed. Or it's going to be on delay or what's gonna happen with that. Um, but I'll be following the updates on that as well. So if y'all like other cases, y'all can chat with me about those too. Um, and if there's anything that you want me to cover, uh, shoot it to me. I'm waiting on discussing more about Sandra Birchmore, because William Farwell just put out a motion to dismiss, and Andrea Burkhart went over it and said they might have some valid things, but we'll see what the state comes back with, or the feds or the government or whoever comes back with in rebutting the motion to dismiss. Yes, some people do use dark humor. And then in the Aaron Spencer case, that got moved to June. Um, and they've so that the new judge that's been put on that, has been removed, and they've appointed a new one, which is great for Aaron Spencer's case. So a lot of the stuff that I'm covering right now is kind of at a standstill, I think. We were rushing to trial on a bunch of things, and so a lot of things will hit at exactly the same time on every case, and then everything will go slow. So, if y'all have any ideas about what to do in slow times or when we don't really have too much coming out, let me know and we can do it. But I hope y'all have a great evening, and I will see you next time.